but we can do all kinds of cool stuff with this device. This is going to be making the device even better as it already was. Yoo-hoo! It's a time! Package from China time, so let's go! Yeah! Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In today's video we are going to be doing a chit chat regarding the PS Vita once again. Yep, because this is a device that have been in my collection for a long time. And if you haven't a PS Vita, in my opinion, you really missed something out. Particularly when you're looking at, let's say, this is just the pinnacle of high quality, let's say, gaming by Sony. Where I love the Sony PlayStation Portable, the PS Vita was absolutely the newer generation. But when it comes to this device now, where this is already like old, a lot of stuff is going on, particularly when you're looking at the modifying part, and you can do all kinds of cool software. However, besides like we're going to be doing a chit chat about the PS Vita and just doing an unboxing over here, I think when it comes to the PS Vita, you can do some really cool retro emulation on it, and I already made a video about it, one from the Sumo shop, that was absolutely awesome, and you had like a plug and play solution. Okay, so when it comes to this product, there was one particular thing I didn't love about it. So the form factor, you can see that it's a very flat design. So it's not like super uncomfortable or something like that. No, not at all. I love the way how this thing looks and how it actually feels and smells. But besides that, it's like such a cool device. I noticed something on, let's say, an AliExpress that was making this thing even better. Yep, and everything is inside of this blue little box. And some of these things look, I think they were like laying around in this warehouse for a very long time. But the first thing I want to do is a quick revisiting about the PS Vita. What can we actually do with it? So let's boot it up and let's do a chit chat about emulation performance and what kind of cool stuff you can do, because it's a very nice device where officially it's not going to be anything going on with this when it comes to like new games being released. The community is still very active on this, but we can do all kinds of cool stuff with this device. But when it comes to the form factor, there's one of the things that makes this not my favorite handheld to play. However, that is going to be changing today. So first of all, the D-pad of this thing is absolutely great. I love the, let's say, the clickies D-pad and makes it very accurate. Where I hated the analog sticks of the PS Portable or the PlayStation Portable, I love the ones from the Vita. But weirdly, when you're looking at, let's say, the front-facing buttons, these are very tiny. And where I just hate them on the Nintendo Switch, I love them on the Vita. But then, of course, we having the PS Vita that can play all kinds of different retro emulation, but also backwards compatible with the PlayStation version 1 and the PlayStation Portable, and no PlayStation 2 emulation or whatsoever. But there is a very cool community that gives us the opportunity to even have all kinds of cool new generation port games. When owning the PlayStation Vita, the backward compatible for PlayStation 1, but also when it comes to the PlayStation Portable, is absolutely worth it already. However, there are a lot of Chinese, let's say, devices out there that do have the option to play PlayStation 1 and PlayStation Portable. But when it comes to the, say, PlayStation Portable, we're going to get into a different league of handhelds that do cost a lot of money. And overall emulation of N64 is problematic, so in my opinion they should remove it. And well, that's kind of cool, you have like NES, Super NES, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Classic, but when it comes to those systems, also here we have like $50 handhelds that can emulate it perfectly, so we don't need an expensive, let's say, PS Vita for that. However, I think it's a very cool overall, let's say, addition to the PlayStation Vita to have the option to play all kinds of games, including arcade. So this is going to be making the device even better as it already was. And I mean, particularly when the software and the quality part is great, we're going to be using this piece of plastic. Yep, that is just what we're going to be using, the top player. A very simple solution, making the PS Vita so much better. So first of all, this thing is made of very flexible plastic, and you also need to be very careful putting it in there. But you have all kinds of rubber pads to give it grip, but also protect your Vita, so you're not going to be scratching it up. So when you're looking at the things you can do with it, it's going to be absolutely legendary. But let's open it up. It's good that it's going to be flexible plastic, otherwise you're going to be ripping it apart. You can see it have all kinds of clicking mechanisms at the side, so this is not like an easy thing that you can open up. So what you're going to be doing is very easy. You're just going to be sliding it in. But what is absolutely awesome, what makes the thing even better, is like you can see those pads I already mentioned before. But you can see it moving, and this is no like magic trick. What's actually going on over here at the back, we have extra buttons. They're going to be touching over here at the back. So yeah, what is happening over here, we're having this touchpad, so we're giving it a little bit of grip and protecting it, but also at the same time we're going to be having back buttons now. But I want to be very careful, just click it in. Let's see, let's slide it in like that, and that's it. Like, you're going to be clicking it in, and you need to be very careful with this. Just make sure that everything has been clicked in here, so this one has been configured correctly. You can see that it struggles big time to putting this beast in, but after you're going to be pushing it in, it feels like it is made for it. And I mean particularly, like, yeah, it's obvious, oh, it is made for this PV, but it's like an original. This is how it should be. And this is one of the things, it's not like a very expensive, let's say, piece of equipment that you can buy, but the overall construction now, yeah, this is just so much better. So you can put your fingers on there here, makes it absolutely awesome. We can just still use the original buttons, and we can just of course use the touch and everything. So nothing has been changed there. So, and this is the thing that I was waiting for all these times. This is now making the PS Vita just my personal ultimate machine. But gaming makes it so much more better and comfortable on the Vita at this point. So the only thing I did notice, so if you want to reach into the select and start, it's going to be slightly more difficult. You can see that it has like quite a lot of depth now. So that is a little bit of a downside to it, but if you're going to be holding it and just playing some games, oh man, this is such an overall good experience now. And one good reason why I love to use my PS Vita more often now. When you're looking at the Chinese devices, also Powkiddy went from having a very flat design, having a lot of curves now, making this so much more overall, let's say, better to play. And particularly if you're going to be holding this thing for a long time. And in combination with the modification, we have all kinds of cool stuff that we can actually play now. Having retro emulation, but also like PS Vita, PlayStation Portable and PlayStation 1 games, we could just play it all now. But if you want to play some PlayStation 1, PlayStation Vita is not necessary now, because nowadays we can find all kinds of cheap Chinese devices under $50 that can actually play this just fine. Different form factors, but this is just a very cool addition. What I wanted to do is to see how they configured everything, and I mean in particular when it comes to, let's say, everything on the top part. So normally we need to use the touchpad. I think it's not a very good idea because I don't love it, because it's not convenient, but now having the triggers over here, it's very accurate, and yeah, this is now the way how I just want to play some PlayStation. I love the travel of the L1 and R1. You can just see that. And I mean, particularly, of course, this is the original, let's say, button of the PS Vita, but there's everything, and that is one of the very cool perks about this. Even though having an original PS Vita is such a high quality product. I know I keep mentioning that over and over time because it's just actually how it is. We do have some travel. But playing PlayStation 1 on this is so cool. Also the audio quality is very nice on this. Oh, I completely messed up my missile. However, let's move to the next game. We can just exit the emulator if you want to. It's funny, like when you're looking at it, it's actually using the PlayStation Portable emulator. But we can do a lot of tweaking if you want to, which you already noticed over here. If you want to do some messing with the settings, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff. The touch doesn't work when it comes to that, but that's actually what it is. But let's get into some gaming with some Danpachi. Oh yeah, it's time for a little bit more of an, let's say, arcade, but this time we're going into the shmup part. One of the things I just love about it in the PS Vita is this D-pad. This clickish D-pad is so comfortable. You can also switch to the analog stick if you want to. Oh, man, this game is so over the top. I love it. So where emulation is getting better, including for the PS Vita, and devices getting more powerful and having the option to play more and more games. The question remains, do we really going to be needing a PS Vita in the future? Because these things are getting getting more expensive, because they're just relics in the future. However, I think it's such an overall fun experience to just play with a PS Vita, and when you're going to be looking at the games itself, oh man, for me it felt absolutely like the next generation. I think it was like, I think in the times when we were just playing some Mortal Kombat on my PlayStation 3. So one of the things I really need to get used to was the controls itself, because if you're used to a normal controller, see, that's what I mean. Oh. So the back buttons are not configured with this. Let's see how, where's the, oh, there is the freaking grab button. See, that was, I think the move was something like this. Yeah, I can still do it. Oh yeah, man. It was such a fun combo. Whee! And I think we can even combine it with the kick if you want to. I think it was like something like this. Bloop, bloop. Yeah, because we had the kick and the grab. But the next part also implements for the PlayStation Portable, where I just love the PlayStation Portable. Backwards compatible on the PS Vita is one of those very cool things. So we already tested out some PlayStation that works very well, but the main promise of course is getting emulation better and better now. We do reach into the point that we can actually play PlayStation, but also PlayStation Portable games. So particularly when it comes to, let's say, the upscaling situation of PlayStation Portable on a device, also that's getting better. So you know, if you think about it, it's going to be to a certain level that PlayStation Portable is going to be playing better, but also looking better on emulation device from China. So it's quite unfortunate, but still, if you have a PS Vita, modified it, you can even play some PlayStation Portable games now. Yeah, and that is such a cool thing. I am glad I finally purchased those, yeah, I wouldn't say protectors, but more like these upgrade pieces of plastic, because this makes playing on the PS Vita so much better. So if you're like a fan of the PS Vita, I think this is going to be a very cool, but also a cheap upgrade. So the housing itself is very easily to be put on the PS Vita itself, and I'm just going to leave it as it is. Revisiting the system with this piece of plastic and having this thing fully modded, we can do all kinds of cool stuff. If this is going to be still interesting in the future, that is something we're going to be seeing together, or at least if you subscribe and hit the little bell.